August is finished. September is here. So what's happening right now is I'm going to be doing a August wrap up. Also, I'm going to tell you my TBR for this upcoming month, September. I have a very ambitious TBR, but I also had a really good month when it came to reading. Meaning I didn't realize I read as much books as I did. Like, honestly, when I looked at my Goodreads and I was counting, I saw that I read 10 books this month. They were all romance. 5 of them were audiobooks. 4 of them were Kindle books, and then 1 physical book that I read. So that means it's not too bad. This was a moving month for me. So I did move into a new home. So a lot of the time my reading was while I was trying to unpack and stuff like that. I was trying to entertain myself because we all know moving can be very boring and annoying and monotonous, the whole 9 yards. So this month I did read 10 books. I would have been 11 books. We'll talk about that later. I did soft DNF a book. Hopefully I finish it in September. We'll see. We'll see. But that's the stats for this month. I wish I had all the page numbers that I read this month, but I did not calculate that. Oops. Maybe next month I'll do that. But we're gonna start. The first book we're gonna start with is what's on the top of the stack. It's not gonna be in the order I read them because I don't have them in the order I read the book. I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Centers. It wasn't too bad. It was sweet. I was entertained, and this was one of the books I read on an audiobook. It was good. I enjoyed it. I really did. I rated this book a 3 stars, high 3 stars. Because typically how I do it, I don't do the 0.5, 0.25, 0.75, a high 3 or a low 3. And I rated this a high 3 mostly because I was entertained. 1, it wasn't like a 4-star read for me. Would I recommend this book? Yes, I think it is a good book. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a high 3 for me. It follows a country artist and a girl named Hannah, right? So Hannah's the bodyguard. She is protecting him, which is very flipped. Normally when you see like the bodyguard trope happening, it's normally the guy's trying to protect the girl. No, the roles are flipped in this case. And it's so cute because they have to like fake date. So it's a fake dating trope so that people don't know that she's actually a bodyguard when she really can take down anybody that's double her size. So cute. The banter was really cute in it. I loved it. And it's a closed door romance as well, which I love it when I don't ever have to sit there and say like, warning. And what's crazy is Emily Henry wrote a review on this book, which is pretty cool. So yes, that's how this book goes. It's very cute. It has a plot to it. It's not just a romance plot, which is amazing. That's our first book. The second book I read was Finding 13, which is book 1 in the Boys of Tomlin series. It was actually good. It was a hard book. It was a hard book to read, definitely. I think I want to rate this book 4 stars. A low 4, definitely. The reason why is I love it enough to read the next book in the series. There are a lot of trigger warnings for this one. There is abuse. There is a lot of abuse. Let's just say that. It's more of showing awareness to like the female lead in the book that is going through this abuse and watching how she's navigating that through her life. As the female lead has had a horrible life. Family treats her like crap. The school she was at treated her like crap. And then she moves and she meets this boy named Johnny. And Johnny is like, is it rugby? I want to make sure it's rugby because this is not an American book. And I say that because if you read this book, it is written like from someone who lives not from America. That's the learning curve is really hard. I read this on an audio book. The audiobook's a little hard. The dialect is very tough. It's very Irish. I could be wrong, but I'm trying to make sure that it is rugby. I'm trying to make sure. I want to make sure it's rugby. Yes, it is rugby. Yes. Okay. So yes. So the Johnny Kavanagh is the rugby captain. He's literally going to play professionals. Like that's where he's headed. He's one of the best on the team. It's amazing. He runs into this girl, and their lives just keep intersecting, and then he finds compassion for her, and deep down there's like something in her that he sees, but he doesn't know everything she's going through, and she opens up to him. And I feel like normally when you see books, it's the guy opening up to the girl because girls are always so open. It's the opposite in this book. Like the girl has never opened up to anybody because she's never trusted anybody, and she finds her trust in Johnny. This book leaves you on a cliffhanger, but I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't read it back to back. And I say that because it was just such a heavy book that I needed some space. I definitely needed some space between the chapters. So this is definitely a high five. The only warnings I give for this book is that one, it has heavy language. Like it cusses a lot. It cusses a lot in this book. There isn't any like open door scenes in this book. It does talk. It talks a lot. Yeah, it's. If you're recommending this to a teenager, don't. It's in the YA section. It is not a YA book. Heads up. I would not give this to like a young teenager at all. Like at all. And I really say this. This is definitely a book for adults. It goes through very heavy topics, even though it is the characters are in high school. This is definitely geared towards an adult read. Maybe I would call this new adult fiction. This one, I'm going back to this book. This one is definitely a younger audience could read this, and it would be good. But those are the first two books. Third book I read was When in Rome by Sarah Adams. It is actually the first book in I want to say it's a trilogy. What you start to realize in a lot of my 2024 books, if you look at my Goodreads, is that I'm geared more towards standalones. I love me a good standalone. This book it wasn't too bad at all. Like high 3. I would recommend this to other people. It was good. It follows like the romance between like a small town baker and then like a pop star, and she's like trying to hide from home, and she ends up falling in love with the small town, the small city. And it's so good. And it's crazy because she hides away in Rome, and it's like Rome, Kentucky, middle of nowhere. So it's so sweet, it's so cute, the banter is cute. This is definitely a closed door fiction. Teenagers could read this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's very sweet, it's very wholesome. Anything by this author is pretty light and fluffy. I loved it. Rated it high 3 stars, which is pretty good. Let's see, what's my next book? It Ends With Us. I really and truly read this book because the movie was out and I wanted to watch I wanted to read the book before the movie. This is a book 1 in a duology. The first book is It Ends With Love. The second book is It Starts With Us, right? Where is it? It Starts With Us, yes. By Colleen Hoover. This is my first book from Colleen Hoover I've ever read. Would I read another book from her? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I read this because the movie was out and Blake Lively was starring in the movie. That is the real reason why I read this book. I love Blake Lively. So she got me to read it. I'll be honest. I think I rate this a low 4. And the reason why I rate this a low 4 because the message was good. I think it got to the point. I'm not saying I would recommend like this book for a lot of people to read. There's a lot of trigger warnings in it, but it advocates for women in abusive relationships, and it shows a perspective that I never understood, which is why I rated it so high. I don't think I would enjoy any of her other books, but this book in particular, I was able to look in the eyes of somebody that like truly fell in love with the individual before they knew that they were abusive, before they knew the depths of their trauma. So yes, it was a good book. Lily has a dream of owning a flower shop, and Riley is the main boy character. He's not a boy character. He's not a boy, but the main character, the main male character. He's a doctor, and he has a very like authoritative, assertive personality, and she falls in love with him. Their relationship ends up moving really fast. Like they're engaged, they're married to each other really fast, and then you kind of just see the relationship fall apart but grow, and it's a great story, great plot. I don't think the movie did the book justice. I rate the movie a solid low 3. I wouldn't watch the movie again. I think the book was better than the movie. I think the book did a great job at seeing to the heart of women who are in abusive situations, and I enjoyed it. It literally had like my heart just beating out of my chest and crying and the whole 9 yards. It was good. Another book I read was Esther, A Royal Beauty. This was by Angela Hunt. It's supposed to be in a series, but it's a standalone. It's a fiction that goes through the story of Esther. It's so sweet, and I say it's a high 3 because I would recommend this to other people. I would recommend this to a younger audience as well. I think it does a great job at like sharing and showing the story of Esther in a very poetic way, because if you've seen the book of Esther in the Bible, it is very short. It's a few pages, and this just kind of adds to it. Of course, it is fiction. Heads up, it is fiction. This isn't a supplement, and this isn't exactly the story of Esther, but it does a great job at telling the story in a more like page-turning perspective. So I read this book. It wasn't too bad. I think I rated a 3, high 3, definitely. Let's see. I have more books. I think I do. First one, Fairest of Heart. It is the first book in the Texas Ever After series, and it's by Karen Whitmire. I read it on audio. It was so good. It was so sweet. I loved it. It was definitely a Western romance, which I don't read a lot of Western romances anymore. But to kind of get the gist of it, the female lead character, her name is Penelope, and she ends up crossing paths with a Texas Ranger named Titus. It is a biblical Christian historical romance. I'm a sucker for historical romances. I really do enjoy them, but it has a Christian element to it, meaning she makes a point of discussing Christian principles, which is really sweet. In terms of would I recommend this to a younger audience, probably high school. Yeah, I think it's a sweet book. It gives you insight to like what life was like at the time as well, but literally just talks about their journey. Like Penelope, she's been tossed around to different places, has a heart for people, she loves God, and she's just trying to show love, and everyone around her that she comes across with in the early stages of her life has been envious and jealous of her, and she's just on the opposite end of people's jealousy, and that's not fun. So you follow that story, and it's so sweet, so beautiful, so wholesome. So yes, that was Fairest of Beauty. One of them, Wait For It by Mariana Zapata. I love Mariana Zapata. Every book I read from her, I rate 4 stars. As of now, I've read 5 books from her this year, 2 of which I read this month. So one of them, Wait For It, it follows a single parent. She ends up becoming a parent by having custody of her two nephews from her brother, because her brother ends up passing away, and she moves to a new town, and you're just following the romance between her and her nephew's baseball coach. And it's so cute because he's also trying to grow, understand the situation he's in, because he has problems that are happening. And she's also trying to be a parent on her own, because she moved from being in an environment where she had her aunts and her parents around, and now she's by herself and she's relying on friends and her neighbors to raise her nephews. So yes, sweet book. I loved it. I rated a high 4. It's not a 5-star, but it's definitely a high 4. I love it. It's so good. It's so sweet. Okay, another book I read this month was I Think He Knows, and it is by Katie Bailey. It's the second book in a duology called The Donovan Family. I rated this book, I think, like high 3, almost 4 stars. Let's just say low 4. Let's say low 4. Definitely. And it was cute. It's a closed door romance. Oh, I didn't mention, the Mariana Zapata book is not closed door. It's a slow burn, and there is 2 spy scenes at the last 30% of the book. That's about it. Now I'm going back to I Think He Knows. So this is a closed door romance. The banter is amazing. I've read a book already by Katie Bailey, and the banter is so cute, so funny. I love it. It's not a grumpy sunshine, which is surprising because most of the books I have read has been like an aspect of grumpy sunshine, which reality is true. But this one follows, I guess now you would call them 2 best friends. And I guess this is a friends to lovers. I'm normally not a fan of a friends to lovers, which is probably why I rated it kind of low. Like I rated it like I think a 3 on Goodreads. It could be a 4. It could be a 4. And just the reason it was cute, it was short, it was sweet. It wasn't as good as the first book. That's why I can't rate it a 4. That's why like a high 4 at all. But it goes through the guy character, or the guy friend, which is Carter, and then her name was, what was her name? Oh my gosh, the names in me are not good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the lead's name's Lena, which is crazy how you'd think that the synopsis would have the female lead in the book saying it's from her perspective. No. But the guy's name's Carter. They met in college, and she ended up mysteriously, let me make sure that I'm not spoiling anything. But they end up becoming friends in college, and he ends up now being like a really wealthy actor, right? And he acts. They kind of have been each other's friends since then, and he's helped her raise her kid. It's great mutual relationship. Then something with his PR happens, and he needs a fake fiance, right? So she ends up being her fake fiance, and then you follow the storyline with that. Very sweet. There's nothing ever. It's not very dramatic, which I kind of enjoyed, but it was very entertaining at the same time. So yes, Katie Bailey, that book I would recommend. It's so good. I feel like I have one more book. 2 more. I have 2 more. Luna and the Lie. Okay, so Luna and the Lie is another book by Mariana Zapata. I loved it. It was so good. It was so good. This was one of my least favorite Mariana Zapata books out of the 5. It wasn't. I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it like a lot. It just was a lot slower for me than a lot of her other books, and it's a slow burn, yes, but it was still pretty slow for me. I rate this book definitely probably like a 4. It is a 4 still. It is a 4 still, and the same way that Mariana Zapata does with her books is like she spends 80% of the book like character development. You get to know each of the characters, and before they actually like end up She does a great job at building the characters. And then the last 30%, there's probably like one or two spice scenes that is easily skippable, which is why I have stayed true with Mariana Zapata with the books I have read as of now. But typically, it follows the girl named Luna, and it says Luna in the lie mostly because there is a lie. And we end up throughout the book getting to figure out what that lie is. But Luna works at a car garage. She paints cars, right? She left when she got this. She came to this car place with no job, no work experience, wanting to learn. The guy raises her up, teaches her what she needs to know, and she's really good at her job. But she's a female. All the men that work in that car place respect her, and it's amazing. Then somebody else gets added to the picture, and you end up figuring out that the boss is now here, and she is always nice. The boss is not nice. The boss is very grumpy. He's very grungy. He has tattoos, but guess what? He hides it. Like, it's like you see this hidden facade almost. Like there's this mysterious owner that hides his tattoos. You don't really know what those tattoos mean. But then she also has a lie that's happening at the same time. So they're both lying to each other, lying to themselves, and you just kind of follow their romance in that journey, and it's kind of sweet. It's one of my lowest ranked Mariana Zapata books I've read, but it's still pretty good. I still enjoy it. I would still recommend it. The last book of all that I read this month is When the Earl Meets His Match, and not gonna lie, it wasn't a great book for me. It was a low 3, maybe even a 2. It had a great plot, but I think it was just too much spice for me. Too much spice. It Ends With Us was another one that it was all right, but this one was a lot. It's an arranged marriage trope that's happening, and they end up getting married to prevent a scandal. The match, which is the female lead, she ends up being disowned by her family, and she wants to just be on her own by herself. And this guy, he needs to be married, but he has scars, and nobody wants to marry him because of his scars, and he's insecure about that. So you kind of follow their love story. It is a marriage of convenience trope. Marriage of convenience? Yes, marriage of convenience trope. Definitely a grumpy sunshine trope as well. It was my least rated book of this month by far, definitely. I want to talk about my book that I'm almost done with and almost DNF'd, because this would have been on my like book to read, but I could not get past chapter 27. I'm like this far in the book, and it's just, I'm really struggling. I'm really struggling with finishing the book. So this is like a soft DNF I did this month. Other than that, I think I haven't DNF'd anything in August. So that's my August wrap up. Those are all the books I read this month. They're mostly pretty good read. This is a pretty good month of reading. I didn't realize how much I read, which makes me want to like have a more ambitious September TBR, which I have right here. Because we're entering into fall, typically your tastes kind of change. I typically read a lot of romance in the summer, and most of the time I used to read fantasy, and I want to get back into fantasy again. When you've been reading romance for so long, you have an itch, and you kind of want to scratch the itch. So here's some of the books I want to read this month. I have 9 books here, and then I have, I think, 2 ebooks. I say ebooks, but 2 books on my Kindle that I want to read as well. I'm trying to not read from my Kindle, because if I read from my Kindle, I don't read the books on my shelf, and that causes a problem because then I buy more books. It sucks. It sucks in its own way. So let's rapid fire through this so you can see the books I want to read this a month. The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I've started it, meaning I've gotten 30 pages in and had not finished. Like, really, I just wasn't craving it. I wasn't craving fantasy at the beginning of summer. This is a recent book I got called Lightlark. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. The back is pretty interesting. It's not very long. So it says, every 100 years, the island of Limemark appears only 100 days to host a deadly game where the rulers of 6 realms fight to break their curses and win the unparalleled power. Each ruler has something to hide. Each curse is is uniquely wicked. To break them and save themselves and their realms, one ruler must die. Sounds high stakes, so I think I might be interested. Belladonna. I saw YouTuber Emma read both of these books and she loved it. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I might like this fantasy. It's a trilogy. The last time that based off what I was looking at, this is book 1 in the trilogy. The other one is in a duology. Might be a trilogy still. The second book of the Tomlin series, Keeping 13. I think I'm ready to read it. I'm ready. The Perfect Marriage. My cousin read it this summer and she told me I needed to read it. This is more of like a mystery. And I'm like, we're entering into like mystery spooky season. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can tolerate this. I don't know if I can do the horror books yet. We'll see. Good Girls Guide to Murder. This has been on my TBR since the beginning of summer. And I have not yet touched it. I was told this was good, and I was told that I might feel the mood of reading it during spooky season. I read Catherine Center last month. I think I read one book by her. And I found 2 books of hers, and I'm like, maybe I'm interested. What You Wish For. And then also Hello Strangers. Hello Stranger is one of the books I'm going to try reading this month. This is my last physical copybook I'm going to try to read. Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Honestly, I bought this book because I found it at Goodwill for like $2. And I said, everybody's been raving about it, but I'm really scared to read it because it's like a video game. But I found it on Libby app, so I'm gonna try to read it first to see if it'll pique my interest before I try physically cracking open the book. Plus, it's a little more intimidating that it's a hardcover book because, as you can tell, I'm not a huge fan of hardcovers. It's a little bulky, it's a little heavy, which is what it is. And then my 2 ebooks that I want to read this month is the Zodiac Academy, book 1, and also the Golden Goal. So Zodiac Academy, a lot of people have heard of that. It is a like fantasy, but a new adult fantasy romance. And then the Golden Goal is a hockey. It's either a hockey or ice skating romance, and it's supposed to be closed door. So that's the books I want to read this month. I hope to stick by my selections, meaning I want to select out of these books and I want to limit my Kindle. But I love reading on my Kindle. So I feel like I might try to take some of these books like that might be on the Kindle and just flip back and forth maybe. It's just, I love flipping through pages, but I also like the fact that I can lay in my bed like this and it not fall on my face. I don't fall asleep and lose the page number. I love that. So yes, this is it. This is my August wrap up. This is my future TBR for this month. I'm excited. I really am, because I read 10 books last month and now I'm kind of just like on a roll. And I say that it didn't feel like I read 10 books. And if it didn't feel like I read 10 books, because I didn't read every day, I'm just at a point where I just want to clear off these books. And I can't keep reading on my Kindle if I'm not reading these physical books here. So I'm excited for this month. I think I have a good lineup. I think I have good variety. I have some high fantasy. I have some fantasy romance. I have some romance. I have mystery options. I have literary fiction options. I don't know if tomorrow's literary fiction. I don't know. What's a video game something? But yes, those are the options I have for this month. I'm excited for the books to come, the books that I'm about to read. The goal is to not buy any more books. The goal is to read as much as what's on my bookshelf this year. That's all I have for you today. So I hope that you guys all have a good one, and share down below in the comments what books you read this month, meaning what books you read in August and what books you want to read this month. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not saying I'm looking for recommendations, but even though I'm not choosing to buy books, I am looking for recommendations. So I hope you have a great one, guys. Enjoy reading this month, and read a lot. Read what you want to read. So anyways, bye.